Hi, everybody. Welcome along. And the intention of Think and Grow Education is to bring you global people who are brilliant in what it is that they do. And that's why we call the hub in Think and Grow Education a place of brilliant minds. And today I'm going to introduce you to another brilliant mind who has had brilliant impact on so many brilliant ordinary people who are going through so much pain. Here I am with Beverley De La Harpe, and you were about to see that Beverley's story is not extraordinary, but it is quite extraordinary. And not only is it extraordinary, but it's also your story, because you're extraordinary, because we all have our extraordinary story. And I'm really happy to introduce you to Beverley, who makes such an impact in people's lives and has done it for many, many decades. Beverley, tell us your name, where you're based, and why it is, not so much why it is what you do. We'll deal with that in a moment, but what do you do with people, with your clients?
So my name is Beverley De La Harpe, and I'm located here in private practice in Como. And I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm also a certified counsellor and NLP practitioner. And I work with a variety of people, from people who've got relationship issues, so couple counselling. I do addictions, alcohol addictions, drug addictions. I work with teenagers. I work with parents. I don't work with very little children, but I do work with some children. And I work with a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, of phobias, and just general day-to-day. Like, I've worked with business people who have the lack of motivation to follow through with their goals, having home issues at home, so unable to overcome those. A whole myriad of different things. So my day is very different and very varied. I go from weight loss to motivation to drug addiction in one day.
So it's a wide variety of issues and problems and people's pain that you deal with. So really what you are is then you are kind of an embracer, and because you have to embrace people's pain, and then a dissolver of that pain. And I know some of your outcomes that you've achieved. I've read some of those in some documentation that you've sent in just now, and understanding that. So you genuinely do dissolve people's pain. I want to know, Beverley, why is it that you do what you do?
I felt as a kid growing up that there was no one who had the answers. So every time I asked for a bit of help or assistance or guidance, people didn't seem to have the answers where I was growing up. I didn't even know about psychology. I didn't even know about hypnotherapy. I didn't even know about anything. And so I made it my mission to start searching for the answers. And so when I started looking, I started finding all this wealth of knowledge and information out there. And I became hungrier and hungrier. And it's just fueled my desire to continue looking for and searching for, helping with people to find their answers.
But what happened that made you do this?
I felt very alone as a kid, and I was not diagnosed as dyslexic until I was in my early 20s. So I struggled my way through school and ridicule, but it just seemed to me that was the normal way of being. And it was when I started searching for those answers, I discovered that there was more to my brain than what was being told to me before. And it just fueled me to find those answers for myself and for other people. So then when I discovered that I was dyslexic and that there was answers, I was able to start to learn to read, to write properly. Maths is not my favorite thing, but I actually can do a bit of maths now. I could never do any of those things when I was a young kid.
So when you didn't know you were dyslexic, but you knew there was something different, like, were you ostracized from the world? Did you feel sad? How did it affect you? Like, what is that like for a child growing up?
I felt very lonely. I felt like I was stupid. And my family didn't really support me that much in that regard. Nor did my friends. I felt like I was a bit of an imposter with my friends. So I just kept it very, very quiet. So as a kid, I was extremely shy and extremely quiet, and I very rarely said anything. So sitting here talking to you is huge for me, because I was never able to speak up. And so eventually my mother couldn't bear it any longer, and she dragged me off to elocution lessons, which was absolutely painful. And I learned to speak up a little bit. But then I jumped on a plane when I was 19. I landed here in Australia by myself, and I started making my own way in the world. And I went from job to job to job until I eventually found my little niche. And then I started finding all this wealth of information here in Australia. Of course, the internet opened up so many interests online. And I went from every single weekend that I was here for the first 3 years of being in Australia, I was on every course available that I could afford to do, just to find out. I wanted to be like a little sponge and saturate myself with all the information so that I could get to the bottom of my issues in terms of my feeling lonely, my dyslexia, my feeling the outcast, learning to write, learning to read. I started reading books. It was an amazing opening for me. And my world just opened up when I found NLP, and then I found hypnotherapy, and I haven't turned back since.
One of the things that makes great practitioners great, which you and I agree on, is that when they have a mission, because everybody has a mission, but people are so caught up in their pain that they forget their mission. What's your mission?
I was caught up in my own pain for a very long time, and didn't really actually even acknowledge it until I came to Australia. And so my mission now is to wake people up. So when I was woken up by certain things that I was studying and learning as I started my journey, I was suddenly waking up and finding all these resources, and that I didn't need to feel that pain, and I could move on and I could change my life. And so that became my mission. I wanted people to be able to become aware of the pain that they're feeling, and that there is a solution to that pain. So it became my driving force to wake people up, pretty much.
I like the part of your story whereby growing up in Zimbabwe, smoking was that thing, and we all know that smoking kills people. And smoking was that thing. And now you help people overcome the addiction to smoking from your your workspace in Como, which is obviously Perth in Western Australia.
Yes.
And yeah. So how did you go from living in Zimbabwe, living on a farm, growing tobacco, probably watching people smoke, to now helping people overcome smoking addictions? How does that all work together? And then you tie that in now into autism, Parkinson's, eating disorders. Like, you deal with the whole gamut of the library of issues and difficulties.
My family, my mother's brother owned a farm in Zimbabwe, and were very successful tobacco farmers, you're right. And I just loved, as a kid, running through the tobacco, and when the rains came, we'd do a little rain dance, and we'd go in and out of the tobacco curing sheds, and the smell was incredible. However, my entire family smoked except me. So I just found that the pungent smell of the tobacco when it's curing is absolutely beautiful, but the actual end product of watching my mother, my brother, people smoking around me, and just that hideous smell in the home, and the hideous smell on the clothes, and everywhere you went was just cigarettes everywhere. So it was usually family gatherings would be just this haze of cigarette smoke over the dining room table, and I just found it really quite repulsive, to be honest. And when I came to Australia and I started doing my little business and working myself through my different processes and things, I found that cigarette smoking, or helping people stop smoking cigarettes, was one of the first things I started doing. And I found myself becoming very successful at it very, very quickly. And I sort of pride myself in one session, and then sometimes two if necessary, but generally speaking, it's one session. And it just made me feel so good. I wish that I had known or done this earlier, when I could have introduced it to my own family. My brother and my mother particularly were heavy, heavy smokers. And so is my best friends, and some of my best friends still smoke. And so from my successes with cigarette smoking and stopping people from smoking cigarettes, which was really quite exceptionally rewarding, I didn't expect that it would be after one session, but most people would come back and report that they'd stopped after one session, and they would be referring. So my referral base started getting very quick, very fast, and very successful, because the more people that stopped after one session, the more people they referred. So soon I was getting very, very busy with particularly stop smokers. And from there, it just branched out, because the underlying issue with most people, as you probably know, Ray, we all work with it, is anxiety. So anxiety underpins everything. Anxiety underpins all the addictions and all the fears and the phobias. And so with the anxiety, I started delving more into if I was that good at stopping smoking, then there's got to be another way of helping people with anxiety. So then it branched off into so many different areas. So I've worked in so many different areas because my research on the anxiety and what it does to our body and what it does to our minds and what it does to our relationships.
And that's why I think it's so brilliant what you do, because when you deal with people's addictions and human bodies become addicted to the emotions of past pain, that they keep repeating the pain so that they end up in a cycle of life, complaining about, oh my God, why do I keep bumping into the same toxic relationships? Why do I keep bumping into the same toxic money circumstances? Why do I keep feeling this way? Well, the body's become addicted to feeling, and the brain is trying to escape it and say, let's get out of here. Let's feel better about ourselves. Let's heal. What do we have to do it? But the body's so addicted to the chemical of pain that it keeps repeating the pain. And you deal right at the very, very core of all conditions and illnesses when you're dealing with smoking. I remember part of your story saying that you had all this knowledge. It was making a positive impact in your life. You knew you had this knowledge and you just needed some encouragement. And a boss said to you, Beverley, stop doing what you're doing. You need to take this knowledge and change people's lives. What happened? What was that first person in your apartment? And were you afraid, and did you do it anyway?
I was terrified, but I went ahead. I took the advice. I got the little push. I took the advice and I started working with a stop smoker the very first get-go. And when that person came back to me a week later to say that they'd actually stopped smoking, I knew that I was onto something, and I knew that I had to keep going with this because it was just so exciting and thrilling. It just absolutely blew me away. And then I just went on this massive trajectory to find solutions to other things that I wanted to work with, not only just stopping smoking.
Take me to the other end of the scale now. What is the most serious condition that you've dealt with where somebody had a positive outcome?
So I worked with somebody recently over the last 12 months who had early signs of Parkinson's. And we've been able to minimize her tremors, to minimize her anxiety. Whilst it's not clear completely, she's at a stage where she's able to manage herself a lot better. And look, I don't know, but perhaps we've even stalled some of the behaviors that she was experiencing prior to coming to see me. It was very, very exciting and very, very rewarding. And she continues to see me every 6 weeks or so, and I see continued improvement with her. She's slowing it right down. It's not gone completely, but she's able to still maintain her job, maintain, her social life, and she's actually doing quite well.
Beverley, I love the story about the 18-year-old. What happened?
Wanted to know how to live her life without living at home. So we got stuck into what did she want? She wanted to learn how to have some sort of skill. So she went off and did some studies and enrolled in a Cert 4. She got her driver's license. She opened up a bank account. She started to research other places where she could work and live. And it was this young kid just took off. She just went from big strength to strength. It was so inspiring. And that was only a few sessions. And from those few sessions, she was so motivated to go and get her driver's license, to do the Cert 3 in hospitality, do her barista course, go and find herself a little job. And she's almost ready to move out. Her mum's not very happy about that, but she's extremely happy because she's a young girl wanting to go places and do things. Her aunt is exceptionally proud of her. And so it's just a beautiful story because this young girl's just blossomed.
And really what you done was you showed somebody maybe that didn't have confidence that they had potential, and you helped her develop self-confidence, which is a very, very big thing in our society today, because we're made to feel growing up, especially with the indoctrination, whereby, going through school, that they steal our confidence away. And you're able to work with people to bring that back. Tell us Derek's story. And the reason I like Derek's story is because, anxiety is debilitating, completely and utterly debilitating for some people. In short, what happened with Derek?
So Derek was another client of mine who was going through a particularly unpleasant breakup, and he had no confidence whatsoever in facing the world without his relationship and without his children. Plus, he had the debilitating effects of fibromyalgia. So building on his confidence, building on him getting out there and meeting new people, helping him to overcome his anxiety, which was a resultant of having to be on his own for the first time. He went and learned how to sort of manage his own money, because his wife was pretty much very dominant in the relationship, and he started to feel much better about himself. We did a particular session on his fibromyalgia, and he noticed big changes for him, feeling so much better and so much more energy and so much more motivation to be able to get out there, go and meet people, feel confident. He was doing things with his children that he'd never done before, he hadn't even thought about doing. So his relationship with his children started to blossom. He felt good about himself, and his whole world just completely changed.
I love these stories because the body is so easy to break, but it's so easy when you've got the right skill set like you have to build that body back up again. So you're talking about addictions, you're talking about diseases, you're talking about self-worth, like you're talking about the whole library of conditions in the human body. And I really, really love that. Beverley, that's what the whole Think and Grow education platform is about. It's about us being able to align with brilliant people like you to bring magnificent change into people's lives. And that's why we love what it is that you do. How do people get in touch?
So they can get in touch, obviously, through Think and Grow, but I also have a bit of a web presence, so email or phone is fine. And also I do work online.
So you can work with people if they're in, another country, another city, you can still facilitate and bring that person to that place that they want to get to. Am I right?
Correct. I actually have clients in New Zealand, I have clients in South Africa, and I have clients in Sydney, Melbourne, and even Kalgoorlie. So online there's no restrictions for where we can work.
And just remind us of your qualification again.
So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I have my diploma in clinical hypnotherapy. I'm also a certified counsellor, and I'm a certified NLP practitioner.
Thank you for that, Beverley. So thank you for watching, everybody. So go online, find Beverley in the hub on Think and Grow Education, and you can book in from Beverley there. And Beverley, the work that you do is so important. Everybody wants to live as long as they possibly can and as well as they possibly can. And you definitely add value to that. And you definitely have the credentials, the credibility, the skills, the longevity. You've been doing this for so many years. And it's a pity we couldn't go through all of your stories of the thousands of people whose lives that you've changed. And I think you and I talked about a number recently where it was over 7,000 people. What an amazing amount of people that you've worked with one-on-one, across these years. And it can only add to the positive impact that you have on people's lives. So thank you for being here, Beverley, and thank you for everybody watching. And you can go straight now, book into Beverley. She'll open up her calendar to you when you click that button, and you'll enjoy your time transforming with Beverley De La Harpe.